Hey there, it's Lara here with the weekly Witchy Wednesday astrology video for the week of October 3rd to 9th, 2018. Thanks for being here. I don't know about you, but I'm having a week. And, well, I do know that a lot of you are also. And, I'm just going to tell you the truth straight off here. I'm being really deeply impacted by the news, by what's happening politically. On top of everything, that goes on the day to day in our own personal lives, right? And we all have those things. We all have our own personal struggles and issues that we're dealing with. Add the collective trauma that's playing out on the world stage here, and it makes for some pretty overwhelming times, right? And so I just want to acknowledge that if that's where you're at right now, I hear you, I feel you, I see you, and you're not alone. I'm right there with you. So interestingly enough, the astrology that is playing out in relation to this new moon in particular is really telling, right? It's a reflection. I mean, there's the there's the ancient wisdom, hermetic wisdom that states as above, so below, right? And we witness that when we have an awareness of astrology, we can see that playing out in real time, in our personal lives and in the world at large. So it's not a coincidence, right? We live in an intelligent universe, and the more I learn and the more I experience, the more I know that to be true. So thanks for being here. If this is your first time to the channel, I really do appreciate you being here, and I hope you stick around. And I'd love to have you subscribe to the channel, and I'd love to hear your feedback. And I really appreciate those folks who take the time to consistently comment and share and give the video, a thumbs up and that kind of thing. It's really, really it makes this more meaningful to me, right? And the Libra new moon is really all about relationships, right? That's the focus. And so doing these videos, it doesn't happen in a vacuum kind of thing. It's not a one-sided thing. I'm talking into the camera, but really I'm relating to you on the other end. And so I really hope that that you are getting something out of this back and forth in this exchange as well. And, before I forget to mention, if you're interested in getting a personal reading with me, then you can click the link below, of course, in the description box, and head over to my website and find out, pardon me, what's on offer there. And also, if you're interested in sort of keeping in more regular contact, then you can do that by following on Facebook and Instagram, and the links to those are below as well. And I post more regularly there. So anyway, let's start as usual by talking about the moon cycle, right? And I always say, if you've watched these videos before, that following the cycles of the moon and being aware of that can be really helpful to us on the day-to-day, right? And we are closely connected to the moon and the moon's energies. The moon is the closest planet to the Earth, and we really feel her. And we have this, there's this magnetism, right, that happens. And I was reading recently astrologer Stephen Forrest's book on the moon, the Book of the Moon. And he says in there that, I wrote it down just so I make sure I quoted him properly. The moon is here and now. It tells you what to do immediately if you want to be happier. And that's it in a nutshell, right? If we follow the phases of the moon and we pay attention to what the moon's doing, we become more aware of our own motivations and our internal workings and how we connect to natural cycles. And we can harness, the rhythms of nature and be more in the flow, right? The natural flow of things, which helps us to feel more content, happier. And so right now, we have the moon is entering Leo today, a little later today. And it's leaving the sign of Cancer. And so, when it was in Cancer, for example, there may have been more of a focus on family, on nurturing, on mothering, on your need for emotional security in some way. And so later today, the moon's entering the sign of Leo. And then on Friday, it heads into Virgo. And then it moves into Libra on Sunday. And we'll have this new moon. It will be a new moon. Actually, the official new moon is on Monday, the night of Monday the 8th, Eastern Standard Time. That's where I am. And which is actually Canadian Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to my fellow Canadians. And then on Tuesday, late Tuesday night into Wednesday, it moves into Scorpio. And speaking of Scorpio, there is a lot of Scorpionic energy playing off this new moon. And so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But before I get there, a couple of other quick things. We have Venus, who is in Scorpio, who also happens to be the ruler of this new moon, right? Because Venus rules the sign of Libra. And she is officially retrograde as of the 5th, Friday the 5th. And so, that is Venus, the goddess of love and beauty and values and relationships and harmony. She is taking a journey to the underworld, so to speak. And she does that for 40 days and 40 nights, if that sounds familiar. And so this is really appropriate right now. And it's really, again, in keeping with the energies surrounding this new moon in Libra. So she's there until she's retrograde in Scorpio, and then she will move back into Libra for a little bit and then turn direct on November 16th when she'll be in Libra at that time. And then start moving forward again, move back into Scorpio. So let's talk about the new moon. Let's talk about the new moon in Libra. So this moon is, as I mentioned, it's happening Eastern Standard Time. You can adjust for your own time zone if you're watching from somewhere else. But it's happening Monday the 8th, and it's happening just before midnight, actually, Eastern Standard Time. And it is happening at about 15 degrees in the sign of Libra. And it is, let me just remind you, right? A new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct each other. So they meet up in the sky. those masculine and feminine energies, the yin and the yang, meet up in the sky, and they birth something new, right? That's the way I look at it. It is a new moon is an indicator of some new beginning. And so they are also, the sun and the moon are also sorry, just lost my train of thought for a minute. Oh, so the sun and the moon are also having conversations with Pluto, having a square to Pluto in Capricorn. I'll break this all down for you in a minute. And Venus, which I just mentioned, is retrograde in Scorpio. And Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio. See all this Scorpionic, Plutonic energy, right? Which is squaring Mars and Uranus. And so this is like the masculine and the feminine squaring off, right? See how this all is a reflection of real life right now? And then Uranus is across the sky from this new this new moon in Taurus. It's a wide opposition, which means it's not at the exact degree that the new moon is happening at, but it's in the range. And so Uranus is like surprise, right? Brings about surprises and sudden changes, and really shakes things up. And so we have that element playing in as well. So with this new moon squaring Pluto, I'm going to show you the chart right now, actually, before we move farther, just so you get a visual of what I'm talking about. So here's the chart, and I drew this up for the new moon on the 8th. So it's not for today, which is Wednesday, if you're watching, but it's for Monday the 8th. So, but we're leading up to this right now this week. And so here we have, there is the sun, currently in Libra, meeting up with the moon in Libra, right? We also have asteroid Ceres that's meeting up with the moon and the sun, and I'm going to speak to that in a minute as well. And then all of this is squaring off, right? Making a 90-degree angle to Pluto up here in the sign of Capricorn. And then we have also in Capricorn, asteroid Vesta, which I've spoken to in previous videos, goddess of the hearth, keeping the home fires burning, right? And then we have Saturn as well up there in Capricorn still. And then over here we have Mars, which I mentioned, in Aquarius, right? And then we also have, what else did I mention? There's Uranus in Taurus. So that's what the chart looks like for the new moon that's happening on Monday. So let's just talk about Libra energy in general, right? Because this new moon is happening in the sign of Libra. And so this will be a focus for all of us, regardless of whether or not we are a Libra sun sign or a rising sign or moon sign. Of course, that energy will be felt significantly if that's the case for you, but we all have to work with these Libran energies because it's a new moon for all of us, right? And so Libra is the sign of balance, of harmony, of relating, of mediation, of weighing both sides. And so there can be obviously a focus on relationships in some way, shape, or form around the time of this new moon, right? And a new beginning in relationships somehow. And of course, this will depend on, where this is hitting your particular chart. And I will go through, as I mentioned, I'll go through each of the signs at the end and tell you which house this is falling in for you and where, because it doesn't, we are in constant relationship. You've heard me say this before, right? We're in constant relationship, whether that be with other people or with ourselves or the environment around us, right? In some way. So we can't really escape it. Even if we're alone, in a cave, secluded from the outside world, we are still in relationship because we are in relationship to ourselves. We are in relationship to we are in relationship to a higher power, to the universe, whether we acknowledge that or not, right? It's the truth. We are in relationship to the environment, so our surroundings. So we're always in relationship. And so this is the focus for each of us right now. And it will play out specifically depending where this Libra energy is in your chart, right? And so there could also be around this time a focus on having to make an important decision or choice. And the thing with Libra is, Libra's really good at weighing all sides. But eventually, a decision has to be made, right? We have to sort of choose which side of the fence that we're going to be on, and which way to go. Because if we just stay there on that middle ground, walking that middle ground, we never really get anywhere. We can just kind of stay stuck or stay stagnant, and things don't change. And so, we have to be careful that we're not so focused on trying to see all sides that, that's important. Don't get me wrong. But at some point we have to listen to our instincts, to our intuition, to our heart, to our higher self, and allow that to help us choose which direction we're going to go in, right? And so there can be this, it's a time to sort of, make a decision right now. Libra wants to, it wants to smooth things over, right? It wants to everything to be nice and pretty and balanced, and for everybody to get along and not rock the boat and not make waves and that kind of thing. But there's this involvement with Pluto and this Scorpionic energy, right? I said to you, Pluto in Capricorn is squaring this new moon. And whenever we have a square, a 90-degree angle happening, something's got to give. That's basically it. It is this energy of tension, and either we need to choose what we're going to do, or the choice will be made for us somehow, right? If we don't engage, the choice gets made for us. If we don't exercise our free will, because we always have free will, the choice gets made for us. And that will happen by some outside circumstance sort of occurring that will force our hand. And so, stand in your power and take control and exercise your free will and make the choice, whatever it is that you need to make, right? And do that with integrity. Scorpio is all about integrity, right? Scorpio, you've heard me say before, Scorpio is not about the superficial. Scorpio has zero, you know, interest, zero interest in the superficial. And so sometimes the Libra energy can be sort of, you know, surface dwelling a little bit, just in terms of, you know, trying to, like I said, smooth things over, wants everything to be harmonious and that kind of thing. And then, you know, this Scorpio energy, this Venus in retrograde in Scorpio and Jupiter in Scorpio right now, and this square to Pluto, the planet that rules Scorpio, in Capricorn, sort of comes in and goes, nope, nope, we're not doing that this time. We are enough with the superficiality. We need to get to the bottom of this. We are not putting up with this crap anymore. You know, we're digging deep, and we are going to turn over the soil and let the skeletons out of the closet and let the chips fall where they may, and face the, you know, face the demons, and all, you know, all of that kind of thing. So there's this interesting energy happening for this new moon. We can experience some emotional power struggles right now. And also, you know, there can be deep psychological issues that are getting churned up. And I think, you know, that's pretty obvious. There's a lot of people being triggered right now by what's going on, right? In the particularly with the and I'm gonna say it with the case in the U.S. between Brett Kavanaugh and Christine Ford. And I have to take a deep breath when I say that. And so that's triggering, right? That's triggering a lot of us. And it is a reflection of a bigger, wider, deeper picture and story that's unfolding right now in general. So this is a really good time at the time of this new moon to resolve and intend to take back your power if you have given it away, to reestablish the balance in your relationships. And again, remember, relationship, we're always in relationship, right? Always. So it's like, kind of like we have the chance right now to kind of hit the reset button, you know, in terms of how we are relating to each other, to ourselves, to our environment. And when I say environment as well, I mean our immediate environment, our surroundings, you know, personally on an individual level. And I mean our environment in terms of Mother Earth. I mentioned to you that asteroid Ceres was lining up with this new moon, with the sun and the moon. It was conjuncting, right, in Libra. And Ceres is the goddess of the harvest. She is the Earth Mother. She is related to mothering and and nurturing and fertility. And she's known as Demeter in Greek mythology, and known as I think you pronounce it Anu in Celtic mythology, or Danu, and which is the earth goddess, right? So there is this highlighting of feminist issues going on right now, which shouldn't be a real surprise to anybody, right? And there's also potential issues of abusing the earth mother, Mother Nature, right? This Scorpio Pluto energy can highlight power and control, and where we are abusing power, and again, or where we are, allowing someone else power over us. And so if, it's possible that we're going to see some more in the news about environmental issues and that kind of thing, along with, the other obvious stuff, that interplay between, that you've heard me talk about all year, really. I keep revisiting this because it is a theme. It is a theme for us, this recalibration of the masculine and the feminine. And when I say that, I have to say this repeatedly, because if you haven't heard me say this before, when I say that, I'm talking about the masculine and feminine energy that exists in all things. Everything, there is an interplay, right? A yin and a yang, a masculine and a feminine within each individual. And when we get out of balance, Libra, too much one way or too much the other way, it's not good. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable for us individually or collectively. And so, because there has been such an imbalance of power over time, we've come to this, we've reached this critical tipping point now in our history where we can't go on like this anymore, right? We have to reestablish. And again, I mentioned to you about this concept of free will. Like, if we're not going to exercise our free will, and we're not going to face the reality of where we're at, and we're not going to, as I mentioned last week, the Joseph Campbell quote, right? Enter the cave we fear, right? The cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. If we're too afraid to enter that cave right now, then external circumstances happen, and the universe forces our hands, and the universe will always seek balance. And so I really see this new moon as a time where that's really coming into focus and being highlighted for all of us in some way, individually and obviously collectively as well. And it's all connected. We're all connected. Make no mistake. We often think we're so powerless and insignificant. And make no mistake, the choices you make moment to moment not only impact you and your future karma, and that's part of what's happening right now, is that we are being called to heal, our ancestral karma and our collective past karma right now. But and so how we choose to do that will move forward and impact future generations and our future karma. And if you believe in reincarnation and the fact that eventually your soul will reincarnate again on planet Earth, then, you know, do you want to come back and have to pay the piper for mistakes that have been made this time around? Or do you want to do something about it now, right? Choice is ours, as always. And so let's get to talking about each of the signs, I think. And I just want to start by, you know, before there's some other aspects here, but I think I've really said what needs to be said, and I've got the core of the message here that I want to relay to you this week. But I just want to ask a few questions off the top and just give you sort of an idea of how this is playing out in general, and then I'll speak to the life area, right? So in general, the big question for all of us is, are we being authentic? Are we being authentic, particularly in our relationship, in how we relate? Are we pretending to be somebody we're not? Are we afraid to be ourselves and really show our true colors? And if that is the case, why? And is it time to take off the mask? And is it time to be willing to rock the boat a little? Or is it time to, you know, to face our own imbalances, right? And do something about that. So, you know, is there, like, are we not being authentic with ourselves even? You know, are you being truthful and honest in relationship to yourself and to others? Are you, there's this aspect happening to Neptune, which I didn't mention, but it's an aspect called a quincunx, and it's like a blind spot almost, right? An adjustment needs to happen. Are you not seeing the obvious, or you're kind of ignoring the obvious in terms of relationship in some way? And is it time to sort of face that and deal with it, right? Does some issue need to be brought out into the open right now? You know, I read this Facebook meme the other day. This is kind of an aside, but it's relevant. And it said, I'm no expert, but I'm pretty sure the person who's making you cry every day isn't your soulmate, right? And so sometimes the reason I'm sharing that with you is we can fool ourselves. We can fool ourselves into thinking that, you know, things aren't so bad, or we can make excuses for the other or excuses for ourselves, right? In that Libran way of wanting to just everything to be harmonious and nice, we can kind of put this nice, you know, pretty covering on it, and but underneath things are, you know, kind of festering, and we're just refusing to see it. Okay, so those are some things to keep in mind. So let's talk about what this means for each of the signs. Oh, you know, and if this wasn't all enough, on Tuesday, too, the 9th, Mercury, the planet of our thoughts and communications, and intellect, the planet of the mind, is moving into Scorpio as well. So there you have it. So I'm going to try to do this fairly quickly because I don't want the camera to run out here. And just take what I've said and consider it in the life area that I'm going to speak to you about. And so again, I'm speaking largely to rising sign here, if you know your rising sign, but also you can listen for your sun sign and your moon sign, and that will give you added layers of insight. And of course, you know, if you want to know very specifically how things are playing out for you in your own personal chart. That requires looking at your specific birth details. But okay, Libra, this is your new moon, and it's like the new beginning, right? Everybody gets a new moon over the course of a year, and this is yours. And so it's like your new year kind of thing, Libra. So the first house is the house of the self. This is about how you're relating to yourself and who you sort of put yourself out there as. It's about your physical self. It's about your instinctual way of dealing with things. And so, you know, it's about your relationship to yourself, largely. And whether or not you are being authentic. That's the big question, I would say. And keeping in mind, you know, all those themes that I've been speaking to. Virgo, this is happening in your second house. So, you know, this is all about relationship in terms of finances, of values, what you value, what's important to you, and your self-worth. I really see this has something to do with that. Are you valuing yourself? How's your relationship to your self-worth right now, Virgo? Are you putting the emphasis perhaps too much on the material things? That would be one thing to consider here. You know, and what is really important to you? What is really important to you? That's something to consider right now. What do you really value? So Virgo, that's for you. Leo, this is in the third house. So Leo, how are communication related things going for you these days, right? How are you communicating? Is there something that needs addressing in that area of life? Is there, you know, because it's a new moon, is there a new way of communicating that is on the horizon for you? Perhaps a more balanced approach in some way. Or, you know, also perhaps digging deep in terms of your communications and making it more about really talking about the you know, the tough stuff, like that scorpionic stuff that we don't tend to want to look at or see or share, right? So Leo, that's for you. Cancer, this is happening in your fourth house. So has there been sort of a lack of balance in your home life, perhaps? This could be focusing on relating differently in a new way in terms of family. You know, it's a good time to take a good, honest look at relationships with family and how you're relating, and perhaps to, you know, your ancestry and that kind of thing, and taking a look at where that's out of balance and how that can be restored, perhaps. Gemini, this is happening in your fifth house. So this is relationships in terms of children, your creativity, your authentic self, enjoyment in life, right? So like, are you having perhaps power struggles with kids? Have you been? Is there an imbalance of power in the relationship between you and children or the children that you associate with? Has there been like a lack of honesty there in some way? And it's time to talk about that, right? And take a balanced approach. Taurus, this is happening in your sixth house. So this is your daily routine. It's how you're in service to others. It's about your health and wellness routines. Is there something out of whack there, perhaps? Is there something that needs investigating? Is there something that needs uncovering in that area? Something that needs regenerating? That is very Plutonian and Scorpionic, right? I always use the image of the phoenix rising from the ashes. That is one of the symbols of Scorpio. So there's something that needs regenerating in that area of life in order to restore balance. Aries, this is for you about the self and the other, right? It's happening in the 7th house. So it is the house of Libra, of one-on-one relationship. So is there a lack of balance in your one-to-one relationship dynamics? Is there something maybe you need to face or to admit in terms of relationship, or perhaps take ownership of to restore that balance on some level? And then Pisces, this is happening in your 8th house. So is there an imbalance of power in terms of the resources that you share with somebody else, right? Or with others? Are there hidden secrets that need to be purged? Purged, that's Scorpionic, that's Plutonic, right? In order to restore balance. And perhaps to restore balance, not only in your external relationships, but your relationship to yourself, right? And the intimate relationships in your life. And for you, Pisces, this could also be about, getting right with yourself, really, and the power dynamics in your life, because the 8th house governs this notion of power and control, right? So moving on to Aquarius. Aquarius, this is happening in your 9th house. This is like a new way of relating to the world at large that could potentially be happening for you around this time of the new moon. Are you allowing your worldview to be skewed by someone or something, right? Another philosophy. Are you needing to talk more openly and more authentically about your worldview, about how you see things, about what you believe? Can you learn something new about relationships through perhaps probing, a different philosophy, or perhaps travel, because the 9th house is about that as well. So those are some things to contemplate, Aquarius. Capricorn, this is happening in your 10th house. So is there an imbalance of power in your career relationships? Are you not being authentically yourself in public, perhaps? So this is like a very public house, right? The 10th house, it's who we are on the world stage. Do you need to come clean with something in terms of career and your public reputation? Or, maybe there's some new beginning in a career partnership that could be happening. And this could also be about how you relate to authority. Your own authority or others, right? Does that need a redo in some way? Sagittarius, this is potentially a new beginning in how you relate to the group. It could be about being more authentically you in a group setting, right? And that can help you in turn find your tribe, who you really resonate with. Could also be about secrets or hidden agendas potentially in group settings as well. And then last but not least, Scorpio. Scorpio, you heard me talk about the Joseph Campbell quote again about the cave, right? The cave we fear to enter. Scorpio, this is happening in your 12th house. You're in the cave. So what are you going to do in there, Scorpio? And knowing Scorpio, you're not going to hide. You're not going to cover your ears. You're not going to run away, right? You're going to face it head on and come out of the cave holding the treasure. And so, this is about sort of mastering the skeletons in your closet, right? And a fresh start. Perhaps in better being able to work with your shadow and face your shadow, and meeting that with new eyes and a new approach, and relating to your shadow in a different way than you have before. So I know that was a little bit quick. If you need any clarification about any of that, ask me in the comments below and I will be glad to help you out. And let's just, before I sign off here, take a collective deep breath. I've been trying to practice that a lot lately just to bring myself back to, center. And hang in there and take care. And I will talk to you next week. Okay, bye-bye.